You know, one of the things that's so wonderful about hunting the West is we've got so much public land. In a lot of states, you can do what I'd call a mixed bag hunt. In this case, my buddy Mark Hervinen, as you saw last week, was hunting mule deer. And while he's out hunting mule deer on the same public lands, I'm here hunting elk. And I don't have great expectations. I came here and I bought an over-the-counter elk tag for the third season, just general season here in Colorado. I've been here before. I've hunted this same area the last 3 years for over-the-counter elk. And this year, I hope to show you that these elk are here for the taking. They are here. You just got to put your boots on, shoulder your pack, climb up the hill and find them. Let's see if it works. As Mark's mule deer hunt unfolded in the lowlands, I headed for higher ground in search of the elk that had not yet started their migration to the lower elevations. Like all public land hunts, my plan is based on finding the most out-of-the-way and overlooked ground I can. And this year, finding that piece of ground took way more work than usual.
I went into a spot where I normally hunt around here, but never seen another hunter in there. I pulled in and there's like 6 rigs at the trailhead. I said, I'll go find a new place. Right now I'm just exploring. I've never hunted this part of the unit before. So. Downside about warm, nice days like this is the elk going bad, and we want, for a camera anyhow, we want footage of them before we shoot. If you bump them out of their beds, they're just going, and you'd get these flash shots, and you'd never get a camera on them before you can shoot. So tough to film in this stuff. So I'm just gonna keep looping around and looking for tracks and signs.
Mark's out deer hunting, I'm up elk hunting, and where I'm up elk hunting, I'm not seeing much at all. I'm like, this isn't it. So that afternoon we go to a new spot, and every one of these spots has something different that I'm looking for with elk. It might be different elevation, it might be different habitats, it might be different vegetation, whatever.
Come on, Mr. Bull. Or Mrs. Cow, I'm not too particular. I'll take either of you. I'll take the both of you.
So don't just entrench yourself into, I'm gonna hunt here. If you say, I'm just gonna hunt here because that's what looks good on the map, they might not be there that time of year. Elk are in different locations at different times of the year for different reasons based on hunting pressure and weather. And so you gotta accommodate all that. So that's what I was doing. I was moving around. But no amount of moving around seemed to produce any elk sightings on day 1 of this hunt. Still, I've hunted these animals long enough to know that they're here someplace, and if I put on enough miles and go where no one else will go, sooner or later, I'm gonna find them. I'm on the search for fresh tracks in western Colorado with my old friend Mark Hervinen. Mark and I are taking a 2-prong approach to this hunt. While Mark is chasing mule deer in the low elevations, I'm working the high ground to fill an over-the-counter elk tag. But after leaving the crowds and searching 2 different locations in a day and a half, I've yet to find the kind of elk ground I'm looking for. The second afternoon, go up, get on this big burned out mesa, and down below me is, again, really thick cedars. But I'm thinking, you know, not many people are gonna hike in here. There's no roads in here. If anything, these bulls are gonna come and tuck in here, and they're gonna hang out here waiting out the season. If they can get through this season, they got it made.
Stuff is so thick, I don't know what I was thinking. I've hunted this juniper stuff before, and it's just about impossible to see anything. I was hoping I could find a hillside that was straight across from me that had some profile to it that I could glass, but the ridges just sloped too modestly. Dang it.
Anybody who's ever hunted the thick junipers knows the advantage belongs to the animals. You just can't see any distance at all. And as I found out, even when you think you see something, it can disappear in an instant.
Either I'm seeing things or I'm the worst elk hunter in the world. I got down off that ridge into these flat pinyon juniper things. I would swear I saw an elk right in front of me, kind of looking at me, about 100 yards. And I saw a body of something move. And it looked like it had a mane. I mean, there's a contrast in color. And I'd swear I saw a beam on it about that long. But you get down in this stuff and you can't you can't see 20 feet sometimes.
After the old disappearing elk trick, I finally gained enough elevation to be able to glass. But I was a long ways from the truck, and the shadows were starting to lengthen. Sitting there and looking around, see a couple deer, not much happening, and as is often the case when you're hunting, whether it's elk or something else, I look down and I'm like, man, that looks like an elk. Pull up my binoculars, sure enough, there's a bull down there, about, 700 yards away.
Oh, there he's walking out in the opening. You see him on the road just to the lower right of the mule deer. Wish I'd walked down that trail.
But unfortunately, there's a property boundary that goes right down off this mesa, and I can't make out, is that little point he's on, is that public or private? And I'm looking at my GPS, looking at my maps. Finally, I realized, he's gotta be on private. And in the time it takes me to figure that out comes 5 more bulls.
It's a gamble about whether we go there and find out it's private or we stay here. And they maybe would have milled down here to where I know it's public.
There's a total of 6 bulls there. One of them is a really nice bull for Colorado. I'm like, whew, this was worth the hike. Even though I can't shoot one of those bulls tonight, they're gonna come back up in the morning, most likely, and they're gonna bed somewhere underneath this mesa that I'm at. And if they decide to bed on public in the morning, I'm gonna be filling my Colorado elk tag. Colorado is home to the largest elk herd in the world, and access to those elk is provided in large part by the Land and Water Conservation Fund. The Land and Water Conservation Fund has provided hunting access to critical elk ground in Colorado. No program is doing more for your hunting access than the Land and Water Conservation Fund. When that program comes for congressional reauthorization in 2015, no group has a larger stake in the Land and Water Conservation Fund discussion than us, the hunters. It's the 3rd day of my Colorado elk hunt, and as I hike through the darkness, I'm excited for many reasons. Last evening, my old friend Mark Hervinen tagged a beautiful public land mule deer. And at the same time, I was up higher, finally locating a group of elk that contain some bulls I plan on ambushing this morning. I gotta get way up on that mesa, leave the trailhead well before the sun's up, hoof it up there, get there, set up just as the sun's peaking. Like, cool, this is perfect timing. These bulls were just over there last night. If they come up this drainage below me, if they come onto this little slope below me somehow, if they get there, I'm gonna get a bullet in one of them, and I don't care what kind of grunt it is to pack him out. I'm getting him out of here, and I'm gonna have a Colorado bull to show you that an over-the-counter public land bull is doable in Colorado. So I'm sitting there and I'm waiting and I'm waiting. No bulls, no elk. A couple mule deer walking around. I look over through the private over on that side. They must have had hunters or something, because now I'm like 1, 2, 3. There's 4 other hunters over there. Obviously, someone on that private saw that same group of bulls that I saw last night. And then they all got out of here. I don't know if when those guys walked in through the private, if they bumped them somewhere, or if they just went and bedded around the end of this mesa on the private. I don't really know, but they're not here. As frustrating as it is, that's part of elk hunting. It doesn't always go according to how you lay out the plan.
I'm gonna put my pack on and go shoot a bull. And I'm off to find the big one.
On our way out of there, I'm walking down this little finger ridge, kind of the high point that takes me down to the trailhead, and I look through a little opening over to my left, and I see something kind of yellowish, and I'm like, put the binoculars up, and sure enough, it's a 6-point bull standing there in an opening in the cedars about this big.
500 yards.
And as hard as we tried, trying to line the camera up with the same little window I had, we couldn't get it. After that experience, I just looked at the camera guy. I said, you know, we can't hunt this juniper stuff anymore. Even though the elk are in here, I got to go higher, because if I go higher into the aspens, right where that aspen kind of oak transition happens, that's where there are going to be elk, and they are going to be there in places where I can get a shot, and maybe we can get some footage. So many people ask me what's the best elk sign I know of. This sign right here. There will be nobody back here except me and hopefully some elk. And I know I gotta pack them out on my back, cut them up. But if that's what it takes to kill an elk, that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna go get them. While the visibility up here is better than the low cedar country, the aspens, along with some really steep grades, pose their own shooting problems. It's another situation perfectly suited for my Leupold optic system. The CDS system has custom dials already set for my specific load. The RX rangefinder gives true ballistic range at steep angles often found in mountain hunting, quickly acquiring targets even in the thick aspen stands of Colorado. Once you find your animal, it's as easy as CDS. Click, dial, shoot. The CDS system by Leupold. Accuracy and simplicity in one great American-made package.
Just took off that way.
In western Colorado, I've moved to the high elevation aspen stands in search of a public land bull. And just a few minutes into the hike, I've stumbled into one.
I thought I could hear something walking when I stopped there. He just took off down through all that jungle, up across this ridge.
Another one of these bad luck Colorado hunts, whether it's gonna be cold, too warm, too windy, the snow, the hunting pressure. When I come to Colorado, no matter how hard I try, I cannot put the pieces together. We'll get a shot or we'll get whatever, and we just cannot get a tag on a bull. We find a lot of bulls, but killing one seems to be the hard part. It's noisy, it's crunchy. The snow has been melting, and then it's freezing at night, melting, freezing at night. I mean, it's like walking through broken glass. They can hear me coming for a half mile. There's no reason to sneak in there because I can't sneak. So I just put it in high gear and I'm just trucking, trying to get to my spot.
A lot of elk tracks on these benches, though, going this way and up and down. It's a Saturday, last weekend of season's unopened. There's a lot of people in the woods, and it'll push these elk into a spot like this where they know there's not a lot of traffic.
And we're sitting there, I don't know, 20 minutes, and Brad, the camera guy, says, "Hey, there's a coyote." Finally, he turns and runs. He's had enough of us. And in the TV world, whenever you have an encounter, the camera guy always says, "Well, what do you think? What happened?" So I turn to the camera to tell Brad, well, here's what happened. And I look, and right over Brad's shoulder on the bench down below us, I see a bull elk.
You see it? It's a bull. He's looking right at us.
And I'm trying to figure out, is he a legal bull? And the aspens are so thick, I can make out parts of him if I move this way. If I move this way, I can make out other parts. And on one side, I can see a second tine out on the end. But in Colorado, you need 4 points.
His head is behind a tree. I can't tell what it is.
So I tell Brad, we gotta move down lower. So we move down about 30 yards and we get set up. Finally, he turns and looks back like this. And now his left antler, I can see. There's at least 4 points on that side. I tell Brad, I'm gonna fit it through that little window. We got a window about this wide from my angle that covers from here to there. I'm either gonna kill this bull or I'm gonna hit a tree.
You want him? He's just standing there. I got all these trees in front of me. He just laid down. Pretty sure he's dead. He stood there for 2 or 3 minutes. I've never seen that before. He's laying right there, though.
This is how it can happen in Colorado. This is how it can happen on the public lands of the West. Oh, man. Dead. Thank you, Paul. That's how it happens. If you're gonna be a successful public land elk hunter, you gotta go to the places other people won't go. I wish I could tell you it was easy. I wish I could tell you that, oh, you just drive to the trailhead, walk over the first ridge, and that's where they're gonna be. Many of you email me and say, "Randy, how is it that you guys see all these elk on public land?" Part of it is experience. The big part of it is we go where other people won't go, because the bull elk have figured out year after year where are the fewest people likely to go. And that's where they hang out in hunting pressure. And that's why we see a lot of elk. And that's why we killed this elk. We knew if we shot one in there, we were gonna have to pack it out on our backs, cut him up into pieces. But no one else was gonna go in there. And that's why the elk were there. Anybody could go to Colorado and do exactly what we did here.